Alrighty, welcome to episode 223 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. Although actually only one thing of any significance happened this week. Following on from about a decade of intense development, Tesla has finally launched its public paid robotaxi service in Austin, Texas. Using a custom iPhone-based robotaxi app, an initial 14 YouTube influencers were able to use Tesla's service in a geofenced region of southern Austin at a cost of $4.20 per ride. And that was this week's news. Indeed it was, and welcome to the program. And as is customary, if there is anyone who is new and is comfortable in doing so, please unmute and say hello. Or perhaps a little bit later. So, yeah, I don't know what happened. Nothing much really. Just a couple of people getting cheap rides around a little bit of Austin, I guess. Um, yeah. So begins the next chapter of Tesla's evolution. So it now is officially a fee collecting robo-taxi service with nothing but a safety passenger. So,
Well, it was only the most important, or maybe the second most important day in Tesla's history, because it was exactly 13 years ago to the date when the Model S first deliveries began. So that was Tesla's first car, if you exclude the Roadster, which wasn't
nightmare.
all built by Tesla. Yeah,
Yep.
was just a retrofit, really. So, yeah, an incredibly important day in Tesla's history.
And yet, the great thing about it was that in many respects, it was entirely anticlimactic in that it just sort of
And that's
happened.
good.
People hopped in the car. Yeah, nothing really bad happened. Of course, the haters are going to hate, and great haters like Dan O'Dowd were zooming in on Robbie Maurer's footage of the robo taxi wavering at a left turn, which was premature for it. But so what? I mean, there are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of videos of Waymos doing much more interesting things. And this is a fully beta program. It's just the start. It's not the end point. And the great thing is that from now on, everything will happen glacially slow. But when we look back in a couple of years, we'll go, gee, that was quick. And that's the great thing. It's slowly, 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 and then all at once. And, that adage has been used from 0 to 1. Tesla has achieved the 0 to 1. The 1 to N, and N being many, that's actually the easy bit. The hardest bit was to innovate from nothing to what we have today. And then really the rest is just iterative process of just making it work and expanding it and, turning it into something that will absolutely not just push the needle, it will absolutely jam the needle to the full clockwise position of adding revenue to Tesla and therefore also value to the company.
From
Before,
this
of
point
course,
on, really, from this point on, sorry,
yeah, go Pete.
from this point on, really, it's about two things. It's just about the March of Nines and scaling and new jurisdictions. So the development's done, the proof is done. It's just a matter of fine tuning March of Nines and expanding to new geographies and widening the geofence and then getting rid of it altogether. And the safety monitor, the person in the passenger seat, that will probably be only a matter of weeks before that person's removed, I would imagine.
Yeah, indeed. And it's it's so funny because you see a few of the media reports and these analysts just jump on and go, yeah, but Waymo's in front. Every week they do 250,000 rides and this and that and whatever, and they've got a fleet of 2,600 vehicles, and that's going to expand and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, currently,
Well,
if
Tesla's got
Tesla,
a fleet of 2 million vehicles
well, yeah, and if all that Tesla did
running it.
was, yeah, if all that Tesla did was not even build the Cybercab, and simply use Model Ys, that costs less than 35,000 US dollars to build,
Yeah.
which is a quarter or a fifth or a seventh of the cost that Waymo currently incurs. And they have an annual production capacity of approximately 2,000 Waymo vehicles at a cost of well over $180,000 each on a very brittle, very much geo-fenced area, where Tesla has a generalizable solution, and they can produce in, I think, a day as many more vehicles than Waymo has
Yep.
in their entire fleet,
Yeah.
and that's just in one single day, and that's just using Model Y. That's not even using the Robotaxi, the Cybercab, which is
But
going to
in-
go into mass production next year.
But importantly, they can do that profitably, whereas Waymo is doing it by losing money. So Waymo is doing a couple of thousand vehicles a year while losing money on it, and have been at it for 5 or 6 years. Tesla's first week was this week, and they've got FSD running on 2 million cars. They're doing it profitably. And like, as I said, it's just the march of nines and scalability.
And they don't have to geofence.
Well, it
Yeah.
is geofenced.
Yeah,
for
but
the
they don't
time
have to
being.
HD map everywhere.
No, yeah, exactly.
Correct. Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's right.
probably because it's later this week or early next. No, it's later this week. The first self-delivery,
28th of June.
the 28th of June. So,
3
and that's
days.
out, and the factory's outside the
Oh, is it?
current geofence, so they've got to expand it.
Yeah.
So they'll just flick a switch and bang.
And the thing is, that geofence is not of the city of Austin's making.
Yeah.
That's
No.
Tesla's own
Yeah.
self-imposed restriction. So that's literally a matter of simple policy that Tesla decides that they can. And in fact, if you look at the map of Austin, the Gigafactory is at about about the 5 o'clock position to the centre of Austin, and it's really only just an east-west piece of freeway or road, and then you do a right turn, and then you basically go north, and then you are in the Austin geofence area. So, oh, sorry, what's that noise coming from?
I think Mike.
Mike, can you just try and mute? Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect, thanks. That was you. Sorry, Mike. Your
So that
comment
was
must
me,
be
was it?
making noise. Yeah.
Yeah, got stupid fan heater on because I'm cold. Hang on.
Oh,
Noise cancelling on, mate. It's all good. I thought it might have been your Comet making noises.
the car's nice and warm.
No, it's a noisy old fan heater. Anyway, all good.
Other quick comment is what a lot of the critics or haters or fudsters, or call them what you will, are missing.
Morons.
No, it's not perfect. The service is not perfect. The car is not
Of
perfect.
course. Yeah.
The point that they're missing is it doesn't need to be perfect. It only needs to be about 5 times safer than a human driver. And it's already 8 to 10 times safer than a human driver, but it'll be interesting to see the FSD unsupervised stats. We've only got the supervised ones for now. And then the proof will be in the pudding. And then, like I said, scalability and march of nines, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree with some of the things you're saying, but I think you just got to be careful of rose-colored glasses here. Today I saw a bit of footage on X which was concerning. So basically, the
Which bit was that on?
Yeah. Which bit of footage? I've been watching all of it. So.
Yeah. There's a lot of them. That's right.
Well, I've been
So-
watching the long form stuff. So
Yeah, this was one where it would have smacked into the back of the black coach. Did you see that one?
No.
So the safety driver had to intervene on the screen,
Oh,
and you know that. So what happened, for those who hasn't seen it, the robotaxi
Was that the truck reversing?
no.
It was
no.
a
No.
coach, yeah. So the coach was going along, and it went to reverse parallel park,
the
and
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
UBS truck.
Yes, and
That was the UBS truck. So
yeah,
no,
and
that was fine.
well, if he hadn't have intervened, it would have smacked into the back of it, or at least emergency braked at the very
Oh,
last moment.
It probably would have braked and then reversed, because we have seen it on
yeah.
another thing where it who was it? There was one where there was 3 cars and it went around, and then it realized that the other cars were going to keep going, so it stopped and reversed and went back. So
Yeah, look,
yeah.
admittedly, you know that might be the case, but the fact that the safety passenger driver, whatever, intervened, and I've seen my car, admittedly a hardware 3,
Oh yeah, that's
fail
different.
when there's a vehicle off the front, off
Yeah,
the corners.
Yeah, we've still got the old software.
Yeah, no, true, and it's
Yeah.
certainly better on with the hardware 4 and Model Y stuff, but
Yeah.
it certainly looked a bit flaky. And what I was going to get to was that if there is an incident,
Then I'll buy shares.
then the authorities are going to be cautious, and so it might take longer than you think. As I say, I don't disagree with the fundamental flow, but I think it might take a bit longer than you think.
Okay,
Because
so
the regulator might put a slower on things,
so
and Tesla would too, I'm sure.
yeah, so I've got the footage. Let me just set up for it.
The other ones, like the guy in the speeding and all that. Well, something. I was just wondering whether that was because of his personal settings that have been brought on board.
Okay, so this is the footage here.
This is the one, yeah.
Yeah.
My computer's going very slow, but so let's just go back to the start. Okay, so at the start, I think the robotaxi was going to go in here. Let's just see let's just let this progress. Yeah, there we go. So robotaxi was going to turn in here, and this UPS courier truck was obviously going to reverse parallel park. Now, the thing is,
truck looked like it had already.
Sorry, I was just going to say
truck
that
looked like it had already parked in there and was doing this again. So
well, the thing
you can
is,
see why it would have been confusing.
The robotaxi the truck was stopped, although it did have its reverse. You can see its reverse lights are on just here.
Yeah.
Its brake lights are on, but its reverse lights are on. Now, the robotaxi might not have noticed that. I think what the safety driver decided to do was the robotaxi would have come in, and then because the truck might not have seen it that well, the truck, while its robotaxi would have been stopped, because it probably would have stopped, would have just backed into the robotaxi, which is not ideal. It's not a safety issue. It's just it's just an inconvenience. So obviously,
well, it is if you're a passenger looking out the window and something hits you, you're not going to be happy, and the authorities are not going to be happy. They're going to slow everything down for a little while.
Oh yeah,
precisely. So obviously the safety passengers basically said, supervisor has said, at this point, let's just tell it to stop going in there, because clearly, I don't even know who has precedence.
The coach or the UPS driver does.
No. This would have been the UPS truck's fault, because he would have reversed into a stationary car.
He was already moving to do the maneuver. Yeah,
but by the time he would have slammed into the Tesla, so if he's slammed into it now, that would have obviously been the truck's fault, because the car was stationary. So
I knew would have seen the fact that guy's reverse parallel parking well before even the safety driver picked up on it, if you're awake. So as I say, this was a one for me.
Yeah, so I mean, look, that's just this is just one of the things that needs to be addressed, and obviously will be with with some training, but as a scale of
suggesting it'll slow it down, the process down, if you get accidents like that might have happened.
The other thing is, you don't know if the safety driver just left it. It may have stopped and reversed on its own. We don't know that.
Yeah. And the UPS driver might have actually, if he was looking at his mirrors like he should have been, it would have seen that and gone, "Oh shit,"
Yeah. So
again, could have. I'll just say, guys, under common law, is it not foreseeable that? And so it's foreseeable that an incident could have occurred there. That's the reality, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
But
and the thing is, these things are going to
like,
happen. You're going to get bingles, and I mean, you look at, like I said, there are hundreds of videos of Waymos doing
Oh
some
yeah,
really
I
weird things. I mean,
saw
you
that
see them
today.
getting in the way in the middle of an intersection where there's emergency vehicles trying to get round, and then there's
Yeah.
a cop lady that's trying to direct traffic around this
yeah.
Waymo, which is basically stuck, and there's no way of actually telling it to manually move on. Like it's,
Yeah.
which is something else that should be addressed. And this is something that Tesla would be wise in addressing as well. Is are there simple hand gestures or whatever to tell the car just get out of the way because you're in the way. Forget the red light because this was in a red light intersection, so the Waymo was seeing a red light. So in its sense, it was doing what it was instructed to do, but it was suboptimal in the situation where you need that flexibility. And
Yeah, I mean, as I say, no big deal. The issue is if something happens like that, or a few of those, it will slow the process down. So the
yes,
rollout
Oh, yeah.
right.
might not
Yeah.
be as quick as you're expecting, is what my point is.
Yes,
No,
and that's a
and that's why
slowly,
and that's
and all,
that
Yes.
that and that's why I've actually got a pile of cash. As soon as we have an accident, the shares will drop and bang. And then 6 months' time, we won't be caring about any of this, and I'll make a tidy profit. So people are just morons. It was like the Rob Mauer incident, where it was like it indicated when, oh no, I'm not going there. And then literally that same video, it's like a 20-minute video, maybe a minute later, a human did the same thing but worse and almost caused an accident. So it was actually one of these things where, the media picked up the one little thing and the whole speeding thing. Well, it was speeding, but it wasn't keeping up with the traffic. So
But the
Oh,
difference is,
Have you guys been
it,
following the issue with the US big yellow school buses? Because I'm
no,
seeing an
that
underlying
wasn't an
thread
issue with that.
that there's Tesla's not stopping for them. I'm not talking about dragging model children out, but the fact
Mm.
that it's not recognizing it and seeing the little stop sign hanging out the
If
side.
if the stop sign's on, then on that side, then it has stopped.
Yeah.
So
No, I
it's
mean
just
the
all this
Teslas are
FUD
not
stuff.
seeing that and not stopping and are going straight past.
Yeah.
I've seen quite a bit of footage of that.
Yeah, no worries.
You're muted, Harold.
You're muted, Harold.
sorry about that. Anyone would think I'd only just started doing this thing. Maybe by episode 500 I'll be better at it, or just gone senile.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look, there's always examples of what it's not doing correctly, and that'll have to be addressed. I guess the good thing is for each of those incremental issues, once they
Mm.
are solved, they'll sort of probably be solved in perpetuity because the machine will never get
Yeah.
tired, it'll never get distracted. So as long as any anomalies are dealt with in the training routines, then you always know it'll do the right thing for that instance or that thing.
Exactly.
So
And the robotaxi software is not what we've got or the public has either. So, because it was, you had a lot of the emergency vehicles and that sort of stuff, and they was pulling over and letting them go and that sort of stuff this week or the last 3 days, because I've been watching all that stuff. So you can't just take old software, which is the irony, the latest for the owners is the same as the robotaxi. The robotaxi's
No.
at its worst
No.
at the moment. It's only going to get better.
that's
And
right. It's the worst it'll be. Yeah.
and you got to say this is a total success because they've been really picking, oh look, I've got a joystick in my car, that sort of stuff. Yeah. So
See, I'm not sure how Tesla are approaching this, but the legal situation is a little bit, having been in this area back whenever, at the moment, this, whether it's Waymo or whoever, it's being treated like it should be perfect under the law, like it shouldn't essentially create a problem, and they may quantify it, they may not. But until somebody makes the statement, would a person have done this? Is this something that's foreseeable for an average person to make? Then Tesla or whoever will be held liable. And until they get to that point, but at this point, that's not the noises coming from the regulator.
yeah, I mean, the important statistic is that there's 3,000 deaths globally every single day from car accidents. every single day there's 3,000 people that die by being a pedestrian or a driver or a passenger in a car, or a cyclist or what have you. So the question is this technology saving lives or not? If it's saving lives, then it should be allowed to continue to develop and continue to save lives. If it's not saving lives, then it should go back to the lab, and it needs to be improved before it can be allowed on the road again. Should be as simple as that to any regulator.
Taking up Mike's point, that's the biggest problem is if one machine kills a human, that's sort of like the end of the world. Whereas humans kill humans with distressingly mundane regularity. And yes, it's everyone accepts each individual case is a tragedy, but it's the road toll is just something that ticks along like seconds in a day.
Yeah.
And I guess it's that what is it called? It's not the acceptance of deviance. You just get used to things that happen in the background, and it sort of just becomes normal. And then obviously when a new technology comes about, you just become desensitized, and you just go, oh well, there's nothing we can do about it. It just happens every day anyway. What are you going to do? This is just what happens. You could solve it by simply banning all cars and forms of transport.
That's exactly what they did with the scooters. There was a person who died in Perth City, because a hire scooter went into the back of a pedestrian. The person on the scooter, there was two of them doing it illegally, and the driver was drunk. But they killed a pedestrian, and they got rid of the scooters, not just in the city of Perth, but in the city of Stirling as well. Now, meantime, there was 3,000 people that died on roads that day, and no cars were banned that day. So that's the problem is legislators will make decisions that are irrational. It's like when a person dies from being eaten by a shark, it's the end of the world, but that day 3,000 people died on the road. So
bring it back to sort of, robo-taxis, and you also got those classic dilemmas, the two railway tracks, you've got an out of control train, you've got, if you do nothing, it's going to plough and kill 10 people. And if you divert the train to another track, it'll kill one person. What's the ethical thing to do? And of course, the problem with things like that is these are cleverly constructed hypothetical situations, which generally don't occur. And the problem is there is no right answer, because the correct answer is you need to weigh the value of of the sum of the lives lost or saved, and so that for people to use those as parallels is unhelpful, because it's just.
But I don't know. I don't know if you can program the car to make that evaluation of, how many more people are going to die here versus there. I don't know. I mean, perhaps you can, but I would presume that I will just react in the way it's learned to react, which is to try and avoid a collision at all costs.
Yeah. The trolley problem.
Yeah.
But
courtesy of James there. Thanks, James.
Yeah, thanks, James.
But the thing is, but Pete's original point, yes, robo-taxis will lead to the deaths of road users. But the main point is, provided it leads to significantly lesser deaths, then that obviously is the most logical thing humanity ought to do, and regulators, and they will, because, for example, no new passenger vehicle in Australia is allowed to be sold without containing ABS. Now, back in the 1970s, the only car that had ABS was a Mercedes-Benz. I forget what the model was, and that was invented in conjunction with Bosch to do an automated braking system, and that was primarily to allow people to be able to continue to steer with their steering wheel or steering system because if you have your front brakes locked up, you cannot steer and you'll just go careening in a straight line. It is that was something that was an exotic, tremendously expensive, high technology innovation in the 1970s, which no one driving a car prior to that time had and didn't feel the need to have. Now it is literally a regulatory requirement that you cannot sell a new passenger vehicle in Australia, no matter how cheap and nasty it is. It must have, at a minimum, including other things, ABS and airbags and several other things, safety features. So it is absolutely logically going to happen sometime in the future. And whether that's a decade or a couple of decades is immaterial. There will eventually be a time when having humans have sole control of a vehicle, that it would probably almost be not permitted to sell a brand new vehicle in Australia that isn't self-driving. Obviously, you'll have all of your grandfathered old vehicles, your vintage cars and all that sort of stuff that can be as they are. But there will eventually be a time when regulators will say, we're very sorry, but because of safety aspects, humans are not permitted to drive or have full control of a 2-ton death machine, which is what any vehicle
Absolutely.
is. So, but
Yeah.
it can take time. It can take decades. Again, it's slowly, 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 then all at once. As we look forwards, we'll think, oh well, where are all these cities that Tesla's going to spread to? Nothing's happened this month, next month, maybe the month after, who knows? But when you look backwards in a few years' time, when there are robo-taxis all over the place and cybercabs,
Mm.
it will have seemed like it happened all at once, even though it did take, 10 years plus to get to this point. And let's face it, Waymo's been to this point for a while. They are in several
Yeah.
cities of North America. They have a couple of thousand vehicles. They're doing, I forget how, is it a million rides a week or something? I
No,
can't.
200. Oh, no, sorry.
250,000, or is it?
No, you're right. Yeah, 250,000 miles. Is that a
Oh,
day? I don't know.
They've
Doesn't
just
matter.
done. They've just done their 10 millionth ride.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah,
so that's just because if you've got thousands of something,
yeah,
then millions of things can happen in a fairly short period of time.
yeah.
But the great thing about Tesla is, and if all they do is perform as well, if you call it that, as Waymo as far as functionality,
Mm.
the thing is they can scale vastly quicker.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Elon Musk never stands still. Technology, he is always challenging, saying the only fundamental limit to what you can do are literally the laws of physics.
Yeah.
And that encompasses computation. And, Tesla will innovate and continue to. There will be version 5 or hardware 5 when the Cybercab comes out in mass production next year,
Mm.
which is hopefully the same time that the Cybertruck comes to production for Australia, but it's another story. That'll
Still
be a
on the
slowly,
website.
slowly.
I haven't given up hope.
Yeah, always look on the website.
Yeah.
Actually, no, just look on LinkedIn because that's where Tom Drew,
Oh, I
Australia's company director, will
keep
always post the news.
always keep pinging him about superchargers, but
But it's going to happen, and this is the start.
Yep.
This is the third, fourth.
third day.
Tonight it'll be the fourth day, I think.
Oh yeah,
Sunday, Monday,
yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday. It'll be the
I've been
fourth day.
watching it all. It's very exciting. Like what Herbert's one was 4 hours and 21 minutes, and I watched all of it.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, I've been watching all of it because this is the inflection point for all the shit since 2016 of all the crap that I got from people for investing in Tesla.
Oh,
And
oh,
it was like landing the rocket, the first time they landed the rocket for SpaceX. That's what it felt like for me. And I was just like, finally we're here. And it's been brilliant.
hang on, Paul. You've got an unfair advantage here. You actually get paid to watch those videos. So
I'm surprised you
I
didn't
gotta
book
keep up with
overtime there, Paul. Like you'd say.
Oh, I don't do any. I do that for love. I do this for love. It's all free. Oh, I watched a video where they had a downpour today, in Austin, and so they called the robo taxi and it said no service. So they got a Waymo. The Waymo started, and then it just went nut and pulled over because it couldn't the lidar couldn't see through the rain, and then it drove again and then stopped, and then drove again and then stopped. And it was very interesting. I was just going, oh, okay, so maybe it's smarter just to say no service as opposed to this half-ass thing, because it was really heavy that no one was actually could see.
Yeah, I'm not
Hey,
going to
just
get one of them. I'm not going to get in one of them newfangled cars when you can't get to where you want every time it rains. Bloody hell!
Well, you can always take over, drive yourself.
Yeah. Oh,
Hey,
exactly.
Harold, I've got a quick question. I'm not sure if you saw in one of the videos, it looked like, I'm speculating that Tesla might have had a Starlink terminal
Yes.
put into the back screen. There was
Yep.
like a black.
Sorry, what do you mean back screen? What do you mean? Oh, you mean back window?
Into the back, the tailgate, the window.
Yes.
Yep.
In the top part of the window, it had a black section. It covered about 40% of the top part of the window. And so I'm thinking whether they integrated a Starlink
Yes.
dish into that. So, Paul, you seem to think it's
I
a
think
Starlink dish?
was it Joe Tegmeyer? One of the ones I watched today. They'd one of the guys actually got confirmation that it was, but they don't know how many Starlinks. If it's one or two, like say two minis, like one as a backup or something, was what they were saying.
Was it this thing here?
So
No, that's
yes.
That's it. That's it.
That's a different shape. Okay, well, they might have a more rectangular,
Or
more skinny
yeah.
Starlink terminal, which is entirely
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
That's the video. Let's just see how this goes.
Oh, golly.
Oh, here we go.
I've watched too many of these things already.
Yeah, we're trying to help you with withdrawal symptoms.
Oh, this is Anwar Beck, I think.
Yeah.
Well, you see this?
No, isn't that? No, that's just the. Oh no.
Yeah. See, it's extra.
They try to make it look like a bit of the boot surround or the glass surround, but it's thick or it's got some depth to it. It's not just a black patch on the screen.
Isn't that the highlight LEDs?
Not in a regular Model Y.
Actually, I'm not going to have a look at my car just to
You're going to
check.
run out.
I'm just going to run out.
Alex, are you in your car?
I'm in a brand new Model Y.
Okay,
Yeah,
Alex,
can you pop it?
Pop your boot and just have a look at your.
I got a question about the boot, Harold. While I got you,
Yeah, go on.
how do you set the boot to location?
Oh, I don't know. I've got my location's adequate, so I don't actually know, to be honest.
It might,
You
Alex,
can set the height where you. Oh, sorry. Go.
it might just remember it automatically. So if you just save it,
Yeah.
in the actual location, and then drive 5 minutes away, and then come back and try and do it again, and see if it remembers it. I think it might just remember it automatically, but it might be wrong.
It does it based on location. So when you set up to the height, you push the button, set it to your height. You push the button, hold it for the beep, and then go and check on your screen. It'll ask you if you want it to remember for this location.
Right. Okay. I'll
Yeah.
give that a go.
So yeah,
that's good.
you must do it and then go straight to your screen and say save for this location. It works fantastically.
So, Alex, can you turn your camera around, do the opposite camera, and then show us what your
It's not
glass
too dark.
looks like?
Oh, is it too dark?
Hang on, let me just spotlight you. Oh, it's too dark. Come on.
Too
Have you got a light? Can you put your?
Hang on. Give me 2 seconds.
Put your torch on.
I've got a torch.
You do with your phone.
No,
Yeah.
but phones don't normally. It's hard to
Oh,
turn
okay,
the
yeah.
light on while the video's on, while the camera's on.
Just 2 seconds.
Yeah, I'll just go and quickly check mine as well.
Okay, let me just spotlight you.
Now spotlight. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Oh, they have added something
Yeah.
extra. Yes,
They have.
because
Yeah.
you can see, you can definitely see that's where the LED strip is. But
Yeah.
let me just go back to Alex, if you can
Yeah.
just stay there for a sec. I'm just
Yep.
going.
Just hold it for the next hour.
So let me just go screen share back. That's taller.
Yes,
There's
that's
definitely
That's
extra.
5% of the one that they've got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And they could have look. It's either Starlink would be clever, or it could be something else. Just better antennas for better cell phone, whatever. But yeah, no, that's great, Alex. Yeah, thanks for that. That's cool. I'll unspotlight you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, fantastic. Very good.
Love the car too.
Well, yeah, of course you do, because it's an awesome car. You should love it. See, one thing I think Tesla should always do is, well, they should think of putting a Starlink terminal in all Teslas.
Oh,
And of course,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be rectangular, or should I say, it doesn't have to be A4 paper sized like a Starlink Mini. It could be quite linear. It could be a meter wide and only 2 inches. Sorry, well, a meter wide and only 2 inches deep, and just go across, and it can even be bent on flexible circuit board because the phased array magic just happens and just does its stuff. So yeah, okay, that's interesting. That is very interesting. And it probably makes sense that Tesla wants to do that. Although the other thing that people did report was there was a message on the screen that said something storage 75% full.
Yes.
And I mean, of course, they could have put in, a terabyte thumb drive or SSD, solid state drive, or even probably 5 terabyte for that matter. So it's a bit difficult to work out what was going on. Obviously, we did see who's Tesla's autopilot engineer, Ash,
Oh, Ashok?
yeah,
Ashok?
Ashok Aswami.
Aswami? Yeah.
He posted a photo of their control room, and it
Yeah,
had
that's
quite a
right.
few large format displays, and you could see the 5 cameras on the outside of the car. Notably, none of those images showed the interior camera view, which is a good thing. And they were monitoring several cars at once, and obviously they could pull up whatever car they wanted to see what it was seeing, which is sort of also interesting.
It looked like they had 35 in that image. Looked like they had 35
Mm.
cars in operation.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
30,
I don't know.
35 is probably 35 that were. I don't think there were 35 at once, because you know how there was another section that had a map that looked like there were about 8 or 9, perhaps, sort of icons, probably representing cars. So there might have been 35
In
in
the
the
system.
total fleet, but not actually running all at once. It might have only been 8 or 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And again, this has got nothing to do with Austin's policy. I don't know what the paperwork says about how many taxis Tesla can operate. There's obviously, there must be some sort of limit or some sort of number that they would have specified, but the restriction is purely of Tesla's making, not of the regulators to any great degree. So Tesla could decide to have, it could have been 35, because the print above or below it was too small to see. You couldn't resolve what it actually said. But I guess people are inferring it's 35, but it could have been some other thing as well.
It makes sense because it had the number of trips, which I think was like 112 or something. It had 499 miles or whatever, the distance they had travelled in total. So it would make sense that it would be the total number of either cars in the fleet or cars that were operational at that time. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there were photos taken of someone who had followed a couple of robo-taxis going to a depot, sort of not that far away from Austin, or it was in Greater Austin. Which, of course, none of this is news. It makes sense. You've got to put them somewhere. You've got to charge them somewhere. You've got to clean them somewhere. It's
Exactly.
just sort of normal. And that's the thing. I guess there's a lot of stuff on X and on YouTube where people sort of analyze the minutiae out of stuff that's either obvious or, of course you've got to have somewhere to store these things. It's not secret. It's just that's what you have to do. And you've got humans involved at this stage because they're not inductively charging these cars, and nor do they need to because they're only operating between 6 a.m. and midnight.
Mm.
And that's really probably more to do with, well, the fact is you had only 14 participants, account participants, notably Tesla boomer mama, Alexandra Mers. She sort of concluded that she didn't have an iPhone and therefore she couldn't download the app because it required you to download it to an iPhone. So she decided not to participate. And I think she lives in California, I think, and sort of went, oh, well, so what? I've been driving around with for FSD anyway, so no big deal. I think she sort of regretted it during Herbert's live stream. She sort of notionally, partially regretted that decision, and they all told her quite rightly, well, you could have just gone and bought an iPhone.
BP.
So could have had a burner iPhone, but anyway. By the way, did anyone? I don't know what we'd call it. I wouldn't say stupidly, but did anyone go and register their interest in being a participant in enrolling in the Robotaxi program? Like I did.
Can we do it here?
You can. The pro tip is you can't put in a 4-digit postcode. You got to put in a 0 in front. So I put I put in my postcode and it wouldn't work. I put in my Australian phone number. That worked. So you could pick Australia as the prefix and put in your mobile. Delete the 0 for a mobile number, and it would not accept. However, it would not accept a 4-digit zip code. Yeah. So I just put a leading 0 and it accepted it. Of course, I'm not going to get an email anytime soon because that would be news. But
Pete, you're sorting it out next week. I'm on the plane.
That would be anticlimactic. For whoever turned up, it would be a true anticlimax. For most of us kept back here, would be a great source of envy and probably, I don't know what you want to call it, really.
Yeah.
Let's leave it at envy, which is a sin. But Pete, tell us you're not going to America anytime soon, please.
I am, but not till next year.
Ah, yes, World
So
Cup.
not till
Yeah,
about-
of course. Yeah.
Not till about this time.
Well, by then, hopefully there'll be other cities. You won't have to go to Austin necessarily. But then again, the Gigafactory, everyone says that as you drive past it or travel past the Gigafactory in Austin, the size of the building is just discombobulating. You just cannot comprehend that it just keeps on going and going and going for as long as it does. It's such a huge building.
And
So
don't
that'd be
forget
worth
a
it.
rocket launch, Pete.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next year's the banner of Starship going again by then.
Yes.
Just a minor scratch.
Yes. Well, did you see today one of the cranes on the cleanup site fell over?
Oh.
Not good. Not good.
Bop-on.
Oh, dearie me.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently it was a composite overwrapped pressure vessel of COPV. It was a nitrogen tank whose running pressure was well below its tested fail pressure or its specified fail pressure, burst pressure. So there's something went wrong there. It's a little bit similar to one of the Falcon. Well, it wasn't a launch because it blew up on the pad. And it actually contained
That was the
Meta's.
Facebook.
It was a Facebook communication satellite that was intended to be used over Africa to provide free or cheap internet. And I think Mark Zuckerberg was fairly annoyed at Elon Musk taking it personally that somehow it was unfortunate that it happened to him. And that was a helium COPV that basically burst and caused the loss of that launch vehicle on the pad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
obviously,
well-
the thing is, during the static fire test where Starship blew up, it only had a minuscule amount comparatively of methane on board. If that was a full load of, it had a full tank of oxygen, because oxygen tanks on the bottom at the lower part of the rocket. The upper part is where the methane is, and it only had enough methane just for the static fire test, so it was a tiny fraction of its normal load, and of course the explosion was enormous. That's nothing compared to if it was fully fueled, and then that's a rounding error to if it was fully stacked with booster underneath, and they're talking more like an atomic bomb level of energy being released in a very short time.
Unlikely. One of my areas of expertise, unless the vessel is heated and lets go, in which case you'd get a detonation. These are just very big fireballs, bloody big, admittedly.
Deflagration.
Very big fireballs.
Yeah.
An atomic bomb is not quite, even a
Yeah,
bomb
that's
is
different.
not quite.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
But it would have taken out the most expensive infrastructure, which is stage 0, which is the ground infrastructure, and that's the only thing that Elon Musk really cares about. In fact, on the first launch of Starship, he said all he wanted was for it to clear stage 0, and he didn't really care what it did after that, as long as it didn't blow up the ground infrastructure, because that's the stuff that's expensive and takes a long time to fix.
No, they had a bit of a Wilkinson here because that failure could have happened on the pad.
Oh yes, yeah. It could have happened on the previous 6 launches.
Mm.
There's
There
no
was some
reason.
gossip on X about some mishandling of these COPVs because they're quite sensitive apparently to scratches and dents and shocks. And there was some missives on X which rapidly disappeared. It was a few weeks ago actually, to do with untrained, whatever employees. But that's all what I would call gossip, and most of the time it's wrong anyway. But it's interesting. As I say, they had a Wilkinson here. Frankly, that's the bright side.
Yes, much better to happen
Yeah.
the way it did. As bad as it is in the short term, it could have been infinitely worse.
Yes. So that'd be something to see, Pete, if you can.
100%.
Well, a successful launch.
Definitely on the itinerary.
Yeah. Don't forget, you'll have to allow a bit of flexibility because weather and anything else can stuff around at times.
100%, yeah. But look, as SpaceX always says, what does they say? Excitement guaranteed, or
Yes.
either way?
Yes. And ultimately, if it becomes fully successful and gets people to Mars, as Elon Musk says, he would like to die on Mars, just not on impact. Alrighty.
If I may.
Yes, I was just going to invite questions because we've been talking for far too long.
It's sort of related to the company. So can you get a Powerwall, a battery, and can you charge it from the grid?
Yes, absolutely.
So I understand the
You can get a Powerwall battery without having solar at all.
right.
So you can just buy a Powerwall battery all on its own without any embedded generation, solar, wind, or any other renewable energy, diesel generator. Yeah.
We're not a heavy user in this house, so Harold, you summed it up a few weeks ago about the payback period on these things and all the rest of it. But irrespective, if I had a bit of free cash lying around, especially with a total of what $6,500 worth of rebate from the government and the government.
Is it now 5?
No,
is it
it's
now
5.
back
It's
to
5 from the
5?
main government, and it's
No.
1,300 from our-
No. It's
They've
5.
changed the rules. The WA government has,
Yeah.
as Paul Keating has said, never get between a state government and a pile of money.
Yep.
And the WA state government has,
Ah.
in their words, honed the system, and they did this before it even started.
Yep.
And they've changed their promise. They've modified their promise. They've said it's not a breaking of the promise. They've said they've widened the program to more participants by reducing the payment by a third, because it was in light of the federal government putting in. Is it the 5,000 or up to 5,000, or it's a percentage?
So the national
wasn't it?
government's the 5 and the state government's the 1,300.
But the
Yes,
total
but
ends up becoming 5.
Oh, the
Yeah.
total's still only 5. Right.
Yep.
The
So
national
there's a
government,
guy on X then who I don't
well,
know.
no,
where
the
he-
national government said it's stackable.
Yeah.
The state government was stackable initially, but then they made it non-stackable. Initially, the VPP participation was optional. Then it was compulsory, but without any period given. So people didn't know, was it going to be 5 years, 10 years, in perpetuity. They've now made it 2 years. So it is compulsory, but only for 2 years. So they keep on changing. It hasn't even started.
Yeah.
And they've
Yeah.
broken the. As far as people that voted for him, because they strategically announced this, was it a week or two before the election?
Yep.
So people that voted for it, they voted for $5,000 for their Powerwall. They're now getting $1,300. So as far as those people are concerned, it's a break of promise.
So,
the
Mike,
reason I
and
asked-
Timothy, we'll get to you in a moment. But yeah, go on, Mike.
The reason I asked was that there was a post from somebody on X saying, and I think he said, I've done a thing. And he went on to say that he's going to get an installation after July the 1st.
Mhm.
And he was going to get the rebate of 5,000 plus 1,300 total. And that his payback was like 5 years. But that triggered my thought, well, I've got a horrible roof unless I could buy Tesla solar tiles or something for solar. So solar's not going to be that beneficial to me. I've just got the roof in the wrong way. There's not much area to deal with. So, but I thought, well, what I could do is get the battery anyway and then charge it during the cheap time at 5 cents off the grid.
7.6.
Yeah, and then use it at the expensive time in the evening. But I don't know how quickly you can charge the battery up from the grid during those.
No problem at all. So the A Powerwall is about 13.5 kilowatt hours.
Yes.
I think it can charge itself at probably almost 1C. So you could have it done in an hour or 2 or 3, and you've got 6 hour period.
Mike, there's one problem with your plan there. Unless you have it with solar, you can't get the rebate.
Oh, right.
That's true.
But that's all right.
Oh, well, I
Get some
just need to
solar.
get one solar panel in.
Well, Mike was
And,
saying the problem is his roof is not very good for solar. So yeah,
No, it
a
isn't.
friend
I
of
could
mine was
probably
looking at
fit
the same
like 4 panels
thing,
on it.
and he was wondering if a battery without solar still made sense. And I looked it up for him, and yeah, it says you must have it with solar to get the rebate.
Yeah, but you can have
But
solar
the
installed
solar-
in a non-ideal orientation, and it won't be as efficient.
Yeah, it's
But-
a couple
but
extra grand for solar, I guess.
But the cost
and it
is
doesn't-
very low.
It doesn't have to be new solar to get that
No.
rebate.
No.
Even
No,
if
you just
you've
have to
got
have some
a system,
solar.
You can retrofit just the battery to it and
Yeah, I
still
could get
be
the cheapest of whatever's out there.
eligible.
Yeah.
Just do a solar carport.
We'll get to you in a second, Timothy.
Anyway, all good.
And the thing is, solar panels are, the cheap ones are about less than 25 cents a watt wholesale. So that's just telling you how little you can get the incremental solar added to the system. So it's not going to cost a lot. Timothy, you got your hand up.
Hello. Hi. So yes, I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
It'd be great to get some advice for. So I am I got some great advice from you guys last time. I did a big tour around regional WA, took a show around in my Tesla, which was great. We're doing it again with a different show, but the company and so we're going up all the way to Pacific Room again, and then down to Esperance and things. But the company, unfortunately, no, well, it's good and bad. We're not using my car, where they're using a hired car, and it's a Polestar 2. So first, I wanted to get people's opinion. We leave on
Take the Tesla.
Well, that's what I've been trying to advocate for. But I was wondering if wanting to get some opinions. I mean, I know we're all a little bit biased towards our dear Teslas, but was
No, you
wondering.
just want the best car.
The Polestar will be fine. Don't worry
Yeah,
about
it'll
it.
be fine,
It's
but
not.
yeah.
You'll be manually driving it, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
an EV.
Yeah.
The charging infrastructure will behave just as well or poorly
Mhm.
as for a Polestar as for a Tesla.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I'm glad you mentioned you're only going as far as Esperance and you're not going across the Nullarbor, because regrettably we've got reports from the newly installed Kaiguna and Madura Pass WAV network chargers are not working properly. They're basically doing an NRMA and letting people down. But Tim, where you're going, let's call it Broome, Perth to Broome, is at the moment working pretty well. All the charges.
Here's
Uh,
the trick though, is that we're actually going inland. So we've got some
Nope.
gigs in
No.
Oh.
So okay,
You're buggered.
it's fine as long as you're staying at least a night or two. How many
So-
days are you in traversing the Great Northern Highway?
We've got a few days. From what I've figured out, we'll be mostly okay up until we get to Perenjori, because we've got a gig in Perenjori. So the Dallawingu charger we'll be using, and then and then generally the places that don't have good charging, we'll be staying overnight or for a couple of days. So I'm happy with all those. It's just when we're actually in transit from Perenjori, I think we'll be fine going from Perenjori to Kew, but it's from Kew to Newman, and then
Yep.
Newman
Yep.
to basically Newman to Broome up that way. That we do have a few days to get it done, but obviously
So-
there's not a lot.
So
there.
for pure simplicity's sake, just
Yeah.
presume I'd for quicker charging,
Mm.
try and stay at chalets or whatever in a caravan park, because caravan parks will have 15 amp outlets, and that'll be 50% quicker charging than a 10 amp GPO general purpose outlet.
Mhm.
So a GPO will add approximately, worst case, 10 kilometers of range per hour.
Mm.
So let's call it 240 kilometers in a 24-hour period.
Mm.
If you've got 15 amp single phase charging, then it's 50% quicker. So you'll be doing 15 k's per hour,
Yeah,
and so basically my maths is bad. That's 300 and something 20 k's in a 24-hour period. So you'll be fine.
Mm.
The ABC point is the most important to take note of in this case, which is always be charging. As soon as you get to your town where you're going to stay, the first thing you have to do is plug the car in, because that's what matters. Because if you wait for half an hour, you've just lost 5 k's of range, which doesn't sound like a lot, which is not a lot, but it counts up, it adds up.
Yeah.
So yes, you can do it. If you, I'll just, if you ring 62623131, which is Tokwa's helpline,
Mhm.
or send me a text on that number in the chat.
Mhm.
There are one or two places that there is three-phase charging, but they're not publicly put on PlugShare, because the owners of those locations don't want to be on PlugShare. But there are one or two locations along the way where you can get some much faster charging, relatively faster charging.
Okay.
So
All right. That's
for the
really great.
Polestar 2 or 3, whatever you're going to drive, it probably won't have I don't know if it's got a 10 or 15 amp charger,
Not
AC
by
charger.
default. It's the hiring company is through Hertz. We're just getting a Type 2 and then like I'm pretty sure it's just going to be a 10 amp.
Well, just bring your Tesla's UMC with you, Universal Mobile Connector.
that'll work because
Does that work?
Yes, it'll work.
Okay.
Okay. And because that has a 15 amp B1 on it, hey?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But please do this before you go.
Test it.
Check that the 15 amp works. at 15 amps, the tail, because there's an issue in America. If you have a long-term load, if you have an appliance that is plugged in and used for a long time at full power, they have to derate the power that the appliance uses to 80% of the rating of the plug or of the socket.
Right.
That's an 80% rule. In Australia, if you have a 10 amp plug, then you can draw 10 amps. Sorry, if you have a 10 amp outlet and you plug in a 10 amp plug, you can draw 10 amps all the time. In America, it's 80% of that number. So Tesla wrongly, and they seem to continue to do this, or they have until fairly recently, and I do know the one that you would have, Tim, would be in this category, that they came out with this 80% rule, and there is a method of reprogramming it. The best way to do this is, say your car's at 80% state of charge, you put your slider down to less than the current battery charge level. So if your car is at 80%, slide it to say 50%, plug your UMC into it, your Universal Mobile Connector, and obviously it won't charge because the car is at higher than that level. Leave it locked for a few minutes, come back and unplug it, and then that should have reprogrammed the tail. Now you've got to do that for the 10 amp tail and the 15 amp tail if they do not provide 10 and 15 amps respectively from the get-go. So unfortunately, it's going to take a little bit of work on your part. You're going to have to find a 15 amp outlet, or you can go to Bunnings. It's a terrible thing they make. They make a so-called 15 amp adapter, which is a 10 amp plug, an inline 10 amp circuit breaker, and a 15 amp extension socket. It's like an extension cord with a lump in it, which is like a safety switch. And it allows you to connect a 15 amp load, sort of, to a 10 amp outlet. And the way they get around this is they put in a 10 amp circuit breaker, so when you pull more than 10 amps, the circuit breaker will pop. Although it will hold 15 amps for quite a while before it eventually pops. So you could use that to test. Or just go drive past a caravan park and just say, hey, can I please just borrow your connector for your outlet for a minute? And just check with your Tesla that your 15 amp tail works at 15 amps. So when you connect, and also as soon as you hire your Polestar, or go to the hire company and say, can I please just plug in my UMC just to check it'll charge this car, because you want to make sure it works. I'm all but certain it does, but you've got to check it just in case.
Okay.
Because that'll save you, that'll give you 50% faster charging, which means your charging will happen in 33% quicker, I think, less time, something like that.
Yeah, okay.
And then you'll be fine. And also give me a call. I'll let you know. I'll find out where a couple of these undocumented three-phase outlets are along the route, and that'll help a little bit. Well, a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can do it. But, and again, when you're doing longer trips, if you need to conserve energy, you just slow down. If you just take 10% off your speed, you will get about 14% longer range for each 10% increment that and it's compounding as well. Yeah. And yes, you can do it. Yeah, the Polestar's fine. It won't be your most comfortable drive, but I wouldn't say we're blind Tesla fanboys. It's not Tesla's fault they make the best product. It's the most comfortable, efficient, blah, blah, blah. But you got to work within your constraints, and the Polestar will be okay. It'll be fine.
The thing that's made me capitulate on my harassment of them to let me take my car is it means that they are more equipped to do these sorts of EV tours when I'm not involved, because they can just go to a hire company and hire something.
Rinse and repeat. Yeah.
So the more times we can test it with different sorts of vehicles, it's handy for them to feel more confident in doing it when I'm not involved.
When is this tour?
We leave on Monday.
Oh, right. Yeah. No. Okay. I was going to say, if it was a little bit later, there might be, without revealing anything of great substance, if you were talking about the end of the year, then there could be some good news for the Great Northern Highway. But
Yeah, right.
Monday, there's no news.
Well, I mean, even compared to last year when we did this, it's been delightful to be like, oh, that one's online. That one's online. It was because we had a lot of a lot more unknowns last time in terms of going around the coast. But this time, all that fits fine.
So you say you're going all the way to Broome.
Yeah.
Are you then going to go back home to Perth via the coastal route?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, and that's great. So,
we're so happy with that one.
One thing to note, and I hate having to say this because literally the WAV network is not the Tesla supercharger network, regrettably. So the principle is never go past a working charger. Always top up at each working charger, even if you don't need it. It breaks up your trip. In particular, I would be concentrating on Broome's fine. When you get to Port Hedland, obviously fill up at Port Hedland. You don't, and then what you can do is go to Pardue and charge, add some percentage to your car so you can preferably get to Bidgidanga. So let me just bring the map up. Like I said, because the WAV network, or because no other network is not a supercharger network, it just pays to be a little bit more conservative. So you're coming up the Great Northern Highway, you get to Port Hedland, charge pretty much fairly fully. I don't know whether you're overnighting at Port Hedland.
Well, that's what we're just trying to figure out, because the original plan was to do that, but I don't think we can. From Newman to Port Hedland, I don't know how we're going to do it at the moment. The original plan was to go to Oski, but we've called them and they don't have anything reliable there that we can use. So the new plan is to maybe go from Newman to Marble Bar, stay the night at Marble Bar Holiday Park, and then go from Marble Bar to Pardue.
Okay, yeah. When you say to Oski, did you say, look, can you just use a 15 amp caravan socket?
If someone else that called them, I think that their concern is that we can't book accommodation. It's sort of a first come first serve. Which
yes, gotcha.
A bit more
okay.
Relying on that.
Yeah.
That's
fine. That's fine.
See if they take bookings.
Yeah. Okay. I know many caravan parks, and again, you're coming into full high season.
Yeah.
So you're going to be girt by grey nomads. Although, to be honest, most of them don't actually stay in caravan parks. A lot of them just stay in the free parking areas near all the rivers and creeks and all that sort of stuff. And you'll see a lot of them there all the time.
Okay.
But getting back to the map, so what you do is once you leave Port Hedland, you should leave Port Hedland with enough energy to make it to Sandfire Roadhouse.
Yeah.
But what you do, so you leave Port Hedland when you've got enough to get to Sandfire, but you go to Pardue and you charge up. You then, at Pardue, you charge up so that there's almost enough to get to Lagrange or Bidgidanga turnoff, but you then do charge up at Sandfire. And then that way, when you're at Sandfire, you could almost make it to Broome.
Yeah.
So you charge up to about, say, 80, 90%, so you can almost make it to Broome, but you just go at normal speed to Lagrange, and then what happens is if for whatever reason Lagrange isn't working, you can then limp to Broome.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like it's a little bit of a conservative strategy. It's not minimizing your trip time or your charging time, but it's maximizing your resilience to a single point of failure. And regrettably, that's just something that's useful to do. Also, have a look at the ChargeFox app every day. So just look at all the pins, and you've got to open the pins. So when you get the ChargeFox app, and I'll just spotlight myself. So you can sort of see that all the pins are orange, which is good. I'll get to one there should be a tritium down here somewhere. Okay, here's one. Okay, so you can see there's a black icon there.
Yep.
So if I just press on that, which is really hard to do when you're doing it backwards, that's a 75 kilowatts. Don't know what that is actually. Witchcliff, I didn't even know that existed. Anyway, if you look at, you can see 0 of 2, and if you look at details, 100% renewable energy, solar during the day, and battery stored solar during the night. Well, the story there is that the solar's probably gone flat. The battery's gone flat and it's offline. So do look for any of the black pins. The problem is, and this app is so useless that notice how it doesn't actually show anything. So sometimes you have to sort of kick it by zooming in a little bit, and then sometimes if it feels like it, which at the moment is just showing how useless this app is, it's not showing anything. So sometimes you have to zoom right in, and again, it's just useless. But anyway, that's just a frustration you're going to have to deal with, which we all deal with from time to time. But do regularly look at those pins and drill into them, because just because it's orange doesn't mean that everything's actually working. It means something at that site is working, but it might only be the backup type 2. So
yeah, great, because I've been mostly doing my double checking on PlugShare, but I guess
no,
what I'm saying is with this,
PlugShare will give you sporadic information from
users,
many people that don't know much about EVs or charging. So sometimes you'll get some misinformation or some incomplete information. But it will tell you certain things. So, for example, one location I'm a little bit concerned about is Manila, which is just here.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be okay. If you look at the messages, most of them sort of say it's okay. But if you view more, and this is always a good tip for anyone, don't just look at the last couple of PlugShare entries, because sometimes it's useful to drill down. And you can see there was a bit of an issue here. And then if you look down a bit further, this one, these people are from Tasmania, and they had used the charger just a couple of days earlier, and then it just was dead. Now that will show up on your ChargeFox app as a dark pin, or if you drill down, it'll show that that thing is unavailable. But if you go down a little bit further, there was a post, and it said, they arrived at 6 minutes past 6 this is AM, plugged in, started charging, but then it basically died. And then they had to wait until the sun rose, and then once the sun was shining on the panels, it sort of came good. So it's sometimes useful just to have a bit of a browse. The reason why I mentioned Manila is because it's about 350 kilometres to Nyanyatara from Carnarvon, or vice versa, and Manila's in between. So just make sure you're fully charged either side of Manila. But by all means, again, always charge at each working location. Yeah. So just be aware, like I said, it's not the Tesla supercharger network. And sadly, there are some locations that are less reliable than others.
Yeah, we had a bit of that on our previous trip. Actually, Manila wasn't even up and running.
It wasn't even there. Yep.
Yeah. So that bit I'm more comfortable with, just because I've done that bit before. But but doing it in the Polestar will just be a little bit off my game. But it's really that sort of bit through the northeast that I think will take the most amount of creativity.
So like I said, if you budget the fact that as soon as you arrive, you've got to plug the car in, and preferably to a 15 amp outlet. And like I said, you'll get them easily at caravan parks. Now, the other thing too is you don't necessarily have to stay at the caravan park to charge there. So what you could do is you could ring ahead and say, look, hey, I'm doing this thing, theatre stuff, blah, 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 community stuff, whatever. Can I please pay you to use one of your outlets for the car we're driving?
Yeah.
But we're not staying there. We're staying around the corner or something. So that's you don't have to necessarily have to stay there. And you can obviously use a 10 amp outlet, but it's quicker to use the Caravan one.
Yeah. And is it generally around like $20 that you offer or more? Like what's the sort of going rate for being a nice guy?
You should sort of account for the power you're going to use. So the thing is, power, depending on what the site is, if it's on diesel generators, power costs about 50 cents per kilowatt hour, roughly, possibly a little bit more, as in that's their actual cost. If it's a town, then the cost is pretty much similar into Perth. It's sort of 30 cents a kilowatt hour.
Okay.
But some caravan parks just want to charge you for a powered site. And I can't remember what powered sites are. I think it varies. I think they can be as little as $15 or $20 a site, up to 30 or 40. It just sort of depends.
Close to $30 to $50 mark, Harold,
for a powered site.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, bearing in mind that also includes showers. So in fact, sometimes they'll ask you, is it for one or two people? Because I'll charge an extra, I can't remember, $5 or $10 to use the shower, basically. Okay. So whereas if you're not staying there and you just want to charge, it's just, you can just say, look, can I give you $30 to charge my car? Or you just say, I'll give you whatever you want.
Yeah.
And they're not going to tell you $100. Obviously, they're not. Yeah. They're not highway robbers, most of them. So,
Great. That's all great. And I just had one final question: is because we can't hire a 3-phase cable from the company, that we're hire company. Just whether,
you can lend one. That's all right.
that'd be great. If it's available, or if that's not possible.
Yeah, no, it should be fine. It'll be fine. We'll get something. It's. Perfect. Yeah, it is Monday when you're leaving, so yeah, no pressure. We'll sort out the next couple of days.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Thanks for.
No worries. And again, just ring me as well when you're on your trip if you have any issues or whatever. But the thing I've got to stress is, if your car is not moving, it should be charging. That's everything else comes later.
Yeah.
And if it literally means you have to stop the car, plug it in, and then walk 500 meters to your accommodation or whatever, you just do that because that's how you save time. Is if the car's not moving, it should be charging.
Thank you.
Cool. Oh, until you get to like the WOD network, and then it doesn't matter. Then it's all easy. Alrighty. Anyone else? Oh, sorry, James, you got your hand up.
Just with the caravan parks, sometimes the people working in there just do not know or understand what you're asking them. Read the room, and if they look at you blankly, just say, "Can I please book a powered site? Thank you." And that's all. They just get really confused. They don't know what you're asking. And so you just say, "Can I book a powered site?" And they understand that. They'll book you a powered site. And it's normally about $35 to $40 in the country. You might wonder, I've got one of those little orange boxes, 15 amp boxes that plugs in, because sometimes it's a bit hard getting the Tesla charger on the funny angle into the caravan park.
What's that? Sorry. So
it's like a little building site, like a power board, but especially for 15 amp.
All right. So buy and bring one of those.
Yeah, it just makes it a little bit easier because sometimes the Tesla plugs on that little bit of angle, and we found sometimes it doesn't quite get in there.
Yeah,
I'll put a link. They're about $100. If you're up near $119 at Bunnings. If you're at I'm happy to lend you one of mine if you're anywhere near Kinross.
Sounds like a good kit for me to have at that price. Yeah.
Okay, I'll put in the link now.
Thank you.
Very good. Alrighty. Anyone else got any other questions or comments? Oh, Alex, sorry, I thought you had a thumb up before, but yeah, go.
Oops, wrong button. Quick question. Autopilot for new Model Y. Do you? It's. I know. Is
It
there
will
a way?
hopefully be fixed. Yes, there is. Add 2 profiles. So you've got a profile that's connected to your Tesla account. Your email, it comes up as your email address, whatever. For simplicity, create two more profiles. So you just go into the profiles and just go save profile or save as or create new profile or something, and like your seat position, everything, all your settings will be the same.
Yep.
But call it
Unannounced.
autopilot, call it AP or TAC, and call the other one TAC. So what you can then do is, because you can only do a single scroll wheel button press to enable autopilot or TAC, and you can disable autopilot and tell it to only do TAC while you're driving, but to go from TAC and to re-enable autopilot to be selected on your single button press of your scroll wheel, you've got to put the car in, you've got to stop the car, put it in park. You can just store it in 2 different profiles. Store one and call it autopilot, and store the other profile which has TAC enabled and not autopilot, and store it as TAC. And then at worst, what you've got to do is while you're driving is just press your menu button, which then brings up, your profile will show up near the temperature and time part of your display.
Yep.
And then just tap on that and select TAC or autopilot, so you can flick between the two if you're in a non-autopilot usable area.
Okay, I'll do that.
I hope that was the question you're going to ask about autopilot.
That's
and it's
exactly it.
Yep, and trust me, everyone knows, Tesla's aware, Tesla Australia is aware, and they have been attempting to escalate it through to the engineering or software department, because it's beyond belief that Tesla head office would think that it's appropriate to limit the functionality and only have autopilot or TAC, because Highland Model 3s, which have the same method of activating autopilot or TAC, have the option of a single or double press. And if you have a double press, one press is TAC, double press is autopilot, everything's good. It's hopefully just literally a software error that'll get fixed.
Hopefully.
Yeah, look, to be honest, that's a pretty big reduction of functionality, and look, I dare say there'd be a lot of annoyed owners. It's just not. It doesn't make logical sense if Tesla brings out produces Highland Model 3s that have perfectly functional double tap, and for whatever policy reasons they would somehow decide, no, the Highland the Juniper Model Y is not going to have that functionality. That's beyond. It's beyond even crazy mode. It wouldn't. I think it's going to get fixed. The other thing that will hopefully get fixed as well is your adaptive high beams.
I've noticed that today.
So have people been flashing you?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I mean, it doesn't make me happy to have that confirmation. It just confirmed what I feared all along, after being flashed at for the 9 days of my lap and being in misery of trying to suppress high beams whenever I could. Bearing in mind, every time you re-enable autopilot, automatic high beams gets re-enabled all the time.
Yep.
And sometimes you don't even realize that they're on when you're on a suburban street, because if there aren't that many street lights, auto high beams come on your local streets and blind people. So again, I'm actually getting my car's high beams, headlights readjusted at O'Connor on Friday, and I'll also ask the techs, hey, how's it going with escalation? But I actually think it's every single new Model Y in Australia is doing exactly the same thing. And they've been doing it for weeks, sadly. And none of us have had a software update since we got our cars. Sorry, since the update that downloaded when we first got our cars a few weeks ago.
interesting. Which software update have you got?
I think it's 13 point. 2 seconds.
Sorry, Harold.
No, totally cool. It's good for everyone to know. Okay, so I've got 14.3.2.
Okay. Yeah, I must be an update behind because I've currently got 2025 8.100.
Make sure you've got your software on the advanced setting. Not that it probably does anything, and obviously also make sure your car is connected to Wi-Fi. And if you go and look at you've looked at your software, so it should say your car should say is up to date as of now.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, okay. Oh, and a pro tip for anyone that hasn't got their car connected to Wi-Fi, if you see an orange coloured download symbol, which I think is sort of like a down arrow with a sort of like, it's an upside down letter T, but it's got a down arrow on the sort of facing or pointing towards a flat floor. That means that the car wants to download a software update, but it won't do so until you're connected to a Wi-Fi hub.
Actually, I do have a software update sitting there. 2025.14.3.2.
Yeah, that's what I've got. Yep. So yeah, download it, install it, but it will not fix your auto high beam issue or the autopilot /TAC issue at the moment.
All right. Awesome.
But otherwise, it's an awesome car. I mean, they look great. I mean, they really do look awesome. And did you get the standard range or long range, Alex?
Standard.
Oh, cool, awesome. And they're super efficient, they're super comfortable, and they're just awesome cars. And yeah, it's
lovely Model 3, but this is the next level up, I think.
Well, like I always say, my best car is my next car, and well, or it's a car I'm in until I get a better one. So yeah, of course. Yep. Well, Alex, what Model 3? You don't even remember that anymore. It's like,
I know.
Just
thing of the past.
Very good. Alrighty. Any other questions or comments in this fourth quarter of the program?
Well, a quick related comment. I haven't seen a new Model Y in the wild yet.
Really?
I haven't
Wow.
seen one.
You need to get out a bit more,
I'm not
Mike.
traveling as much, but I haven't seen it.
I saw two today, and I waved to two and gave him the thumbs up, and got the thumbs up reply, which is never. That's the Tesla wave seized about 18 months, 2 years ago.
Yes,
but it's been reignited. The Junipers again now.
Well, funny thing is, I was going down the freeway with my wife, and we were in the left-hand lane going south, and a Juniper sort of crawled up and slowly overtook us, and the driver and passengers were basically going like they were so excited because we'd obviously worked out pretty quickly they were brand new Tesla owners, so they were in that Tesla euphoria of oh my god, this car's amazing. And
Harold, you've got that all wrong, mate. They just knew it was you.
that is so not true.
No one else looks like you, Harold, in a Tesla.
Probably, thankfully so. But yeah, they were so excited and yeah, clearly new owners and just loving the experience, which is really cool. And I must admit, I don't wave anymore. I look intensely at the first sign of the start of a wave, and then I'll do one. But I've kind of held back on initiating them because, to be perfectly frank, a lot of new owners just look at you and go, "What are you doing, mate? Like, what's your problem?" But it's just not the same, and it's mature. It's a mature market, which is totally cool too. But anyway, very good. All right. Anything else?
I've got the same software as what you just mentioned, but I haven't noticed the adaptive headlights as a problem with the Highland. Do you know if it's not there with the Highland?
No, it's not there with the Highland. It's the Juniper. So it's only the Model Y.
Isn't it crazy that they run so many different versions
So
of software?
no. So actually, the thing is, the new Model Y has. Oh, I'm not sure what the Highlander has actually. No, excuse my ignorance, because I literally have no idea what the headlights in the Highlander is. I know what the headlights on the old Model Y is, and that's actually in. I think it's about 3 segments. So the actual pixelated adaptive high beam part is sort of one dedicated part of the light, and then there are 2 other elements. In the refreshed Model Y, it's completely different. The headlights are entirely done by one pixelated element. So there was obviously more scope for error. And my theory, and I could be completely wrong, is that by changing the pattern for the right-hand drive market, they've basically done something with the way the pixels are addressed or utilized, which has then introduced this offset error for the blackout section that the adaptive high beams do. I know there's a big difference between the old Model Y and the new Model Y. The old Model Y, when the adaptive high beams worked, you would get like this cone of blackness in front of you. It was sort of like it would come out as like a conical shape outwards towards the area that was being blacked out. The refreshed Model Y is very much a squarish block out that moves around. And like I said, there's this offset error. The high beam, the blackout region is to the right of where it should be, which unfortunately then means that cars coming the other way or cars you are following just experience the whole full high beam, which is why people get sporadically flashed. If you're on the freeway and you've got a high barrier, a lot of people either don't really see it, or because you're sort of like further to your oncoming cars are much further to the right and off axis. A lot of people don't bother flashing, but trust me, when you're in a dark country road, you're getting flashed all the time, and it's just to be brutally honest, it's a very poor experience. It really does. Look, it affects your enjoyment of the car at night time because you feel quite stressed knowing that you are blinding other road users, and it's just not safe, to be perfectly honest. But I can understand that these things can creep in, and look, there's probably hundreds of thousands of Model Ys out there. No, sorry, it's probably a right-hand drive issue, so there's probably only tens of thousands of cars in right-hand drive markets. And the thing is, most of them will be in very urban areas where it's a hidden issue and not everyone drives at night. So it takes a while for some of these things to manifest and be flagged and to be properly dealt with. And like I said, Tesla's more than aware now. They've got some great dash cam footage of them malfunctioning or doing the wrong thing. And look, I'm sure they're going to work on it. Software updates do take a while because they have to be conservative and not try and introduce new errors, which could make things even worse. So it's a process. Trev, you got your hand up.
Yeah, just you had your conversation before talking about charging at caravan parks and prices and stuff. I just thought I'd see what your experience is with caravan parks, and all the ones that are out of the way are obviously expecting us coming through that we're going to want power, but has it pretty much gone completely where no one says anything negative now about plugging electric cars into caravan sockets, or is it like
it's mixed?
More like the small cities or big towns, like maybe the Brooms or Karathas, maybe not see that many of us.
Some caravan parks hate EVs.
Yeah,
they charge a fair bit more, and I guess in one sense, sort of fair enough, because as opposed to many caravans that might not draw all that much power, particularly in this winter season, where temperatures are mild, an EV will just gobble up the full 15 amps the whole time. So, look, my preference would be to say, well, the best thing is if they just provide Type 2 charging at cost. So they have it's like a Tesla destination charger whereby you pay 40, 50, 60 cents per kilowatt hour, whatever charge they want to charge, and you just pay for the electricity you use. Because I have heard that there's talk that EVs are changing the economics of providing power at caravan parks because they have this lopsided sort of consumption compared to the average caravan. Having said that, there are people that drive around in Winnebagos and rather large caravans with several air conditioners and fridges and blah de blah, and they can actually gobble down a lot of power too. So it's become a bit of a power hungry sort of industry.
Yeah.
But you'll get the haters, you'll get the people that admire EVs, are ambivalent, and some that dislike them. So it's like any strata of society or wherever. It just depends. It also depends probably on the attitude of the EV driver too. If you sort of come in sort of all arrogant and go, right, so where's my free juice, or I want to do this or that, and you tell them what you want to do, you tell them what to do, then they might not be as friendly. It's just different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, I thought it might be worth just mentioning it on the phone when booking something, but we've only got Broome and Tom Price booked on the way up, and the rest of it we're just going to go flat out to Darwin, but it's more the trip home we're going to take a bit longer, so a lot more places to stop. And I thought all the ones that are out in the middle of nowhere probably be fine, but I was sort of thinking more like Karratha and places where there's multitude of caravan parks and fast chargers. People go to the fast charger and wouldn't maybe necessarily charge at the caravan parks.
So I've stayed at Karratha a few times. Unfortunately, I get absolutely stabbed at the Ibis at Karratha because it's actually it's basically next to the WAV network charger.
Yeah.
And what I do is plug in on the Kempower, walk to the Ibis, or I have stayed at the International, which is sort of around the corner. The problem is it's a mining town, and the hotel room is $300+ a night, which is exorbitant. There is a destination charger at the Rangers in Karratha, which is where the old drive-ins used to be near the tip. But you can't book it. It seems it's just basically booked out by XYZ Mining Company, the entire site. So accommodation is difficult. Maybe the caravan parks are the go. But what you could just do is just stay at the Kempower for say 20 minutes or 30 minutes on the fast EC. Then just stay at the caravan park, maybe plug into a socket. Like you could hire a chalet or something and just plug into a socket or whatever, just to top up a bit. But I mean, it's only it's less than 230 k's to Port Hedland. Sorry, you said you were going to Darwin?
Yeah, we leave next Thursday.
Right. Okay. So strategically, you probably want to overnight at the Timber Creek Hotel.
Yeah, I'm gonna plan that we're not, and if we need to, we'll just pay.
What are you driving?
3 long range, Highland.
Oh, okay. So it
has its good days and its bad days, depending on how I drive. But like I went to Perth and back last week, and when I got back, I think we'd done 440 k's, and we'd only used 70% or something, 65, 70%. So it was on target to do about 630, but then I've had days you cop the wind and all of a sudden you use
it's 517 kilometres between Kununurra and Katherine.
Yeah.
And I know that because I drove it. And the great thing is you get pretty crappy efficiency between Kununurra and Timber Creek.
Yeah.
And then it sort of becomes a little bit weird. It looks like you're going uphill, but you're actually going downhill. It's a little bit deceptive. But about 100 k's out of Katherine, there's silky smooth, brand new, it's actually tarmac road. So your efficiency actually gets better as you get towards Katherine. So it's 517 k's. Just slow down a bit, do 100 k's an hour, see how you go. Don't be upset if you're behind a grey Nomad or even a truck. Use that time.
I'll let them pull me along.
Exactly. just use that time to like zone out, just go on autopilot, zone out for a bit. Even if they're doing 90, if you can do that for 50 Ks, you'll save a lot of efficiency, and you can burn that later on towards Catherine. So it's 517 Ks. You can do it, but you have to leave Kununurra full, or at like 98%.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, and then you'll be fine. Are you going back the same way, or are you going down the guts?
We're going up via Tom Price, and we're coming back along the coast.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, okay. Yep. So then obviously the opposite is the case when you go from Catherine to Kununurra. It'll be very efficient at the start, and it'll deteriorate once you get past Timber Creek.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll be fine. That's the biggest gap actually, is the 517 between.
Yeah, apart from that, it looks fairly easy as long as everything's working.
Yeah, just watch out for.
I heard you say Manuia before.
Oh yeah, watch out for Fitzroy Crossing. It's badly vandalised. It's kind of just working.
The Type 2's been taken out at the moment, but it says that the CCS is still good.
If that doesn't work, you've got 3-phase at the Fitzroy River Lodge, and again, It depends where like for example, if you thought you're going to stay in Fitzroy Crossing, stay at the Fitzroy River Lodge. They've got 3-phase just outside the doors of reception. Yes, it's kind of out in the open, but I mean, all the cars are out in the open actually. So, but that's a great place to stop. If you stay at Halls Creek. The Halls Creek Hotel is where you should stay, because it's a 3-phase outlet. It's on PlugShare at the laundry. And that's another great place to overnight. So either Fitzroy Crossing or Halls Creek.
Yeah, we got a couple of nights in Broome, so we'll try and go to Kununurra that day. Get through the whole lot.
Oh yeah, you can. Oh yeah, easy. No, absolutely easy. And then you could just overnight at Kununurra. Pro tip: you could stay at the Kununurra motel.
We're just taking like we've done on a couple of other trips. We're taking a double swag.
Oh,
and both the kids sleep in the car with the seats folded down, and then the wife and I, we just got the double swag next to the car.
Well, if you go to the Kununurra showgrounds, where they do powered sites or whatever, and there's 3-phase power there, and there's facilities, there's toilets and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like an overflow caravan park that the Shire runs. So yeah, it should be good. But again, feel free to give me a buzz anytime if you got any questions.
Yeah, no dramas. I sent you an email today about Borrens for a wheel.
Oh, sorry, that was you. Sorry, I didn't. Yeah, no, that'll be fine. Yeah, easiest is if you can just ring me just to follow up.
Yeah, cool.
And again, just 62623131.
Done.
Cool. But enjoy your trip. And yeah, like I said, feel free to give me a buzz anytime, because I know that whole route by the back of my hand, so it's easy. Oh, except for the Great Northern Highway bit. Mike.
Yes, thanks. Here's a question. Have we got a social coming up? Because the social directors, we missed a couple. That last one looked really good at that place up the Swan Valley or wherever it was, or Gidgigana. Well, I can't remember where it was now. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold. I'm not thinking straight. So have we got a social coming up?
Yeah, we do, and I'm going to struggle. I'm going to have to look on my phone to see if I can find it, and it is at it's called the Local House, and it is at 103 Hammond Road in Coburn Central. So that's going to be this Wednesday. So the one coming after today. So I'll get that email out tomorrow, because I like to make it absolutely clear that if it says this Wednesday, it means the one in the next few days. So I'll send that email out tomorrow. So there won't be an Ask Us Anything. It'll actually be an in-person Ask Us Anything. And I think off the top of my head, that is the 2nd of July, or am I mistaken?
Yep.
There, that's the 2nd of July. next
Cool.
Wednesday.
So, do many ladies come to these things, or is it just a bunch of old blokes chatting around and a few young?
Sadly, nowhere near as many as the blokes, but that's changing because it's sort of mirroring the change in demographics actually buying Teslas. You know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, everyone that bought a Tesla was an engineer or someone interested in technology or a dyed-in-the-wool greenie bloke, usually male, pale and stale. But it's changing. So thankfully there are a lot more ladies in attendance.
Well, I'll see if the social director wants to come to this one.
Well, I absolutely encourage it to do so because there'll be other like-minded social directors there as well, and actually even Tesla owners. So, yeah, absolutely. Next Wednesday, or this Wednesday, whatever you want to call it. And I'll get that email out tomorrow. Alrighty. We're getting sort of the last 10 minutes or up to. So any last little bits before we wrap this awesome show up?
Harold?
Yes, Huffies.
Yeah, hi. Is it just because the new Model Ys they don't have summon because they're on cameras, so you can't do summon like you did the old Model Ys?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. And actually, to be perfectly honest, I've never tried summon in the new
It's
Y.
not coming up in the menu at all.
Yeah.
And somebody on Facebook said hardware for cars with vision only don't have summon as an option until it comes out through FSD or whatever. So
Ooh,
no dumb
okay.
summon. So I was just asking if you knew.
No, sorry, I don't. And like I said, I've never tried it. But I think that's been mentioned before. So look, hopefully that's just another thing. I mean, I don't really see the logic of it having to wait until FSD coming out because, well, I mean, it could be something to do with the way they're implementing the software and they're waiting. It doesn't mean that you need to have FSD to have summon, although you might have to have an enhanced autopilot to get summon.
Yeah, you need enhanced autopilot.
Yeah. But, yeah.
When I went, I've got the old, whatever, the 2022 3, and because I was so keen, I was half looking at getting a new 3 straight away, straight in the new one. And the chap says, "Oh, it doesn't have." I said, "Oh, one of the cool things is I can summon my car out of the garage." Now, in my case, it's dumb summon or whatever you want to call it. It just comes in a straight line and all that. And he said, "Yeah," and he said, "The new ones don't have it." I went, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, because you could potentially have smart summon across the car park or whatever. It's a regulatory issue. It's not approved." So it's not that it can't do it; it's just not approved. That's what the chap told me anyway at Tesla in Aussie Park.
Yeah, look, that's entirely possible. The one little bit of consolation is that FSD supervised certainly does not require any additional regulatory approval in Australia. But yeah, obviously, sadly, smart summon clearly does. So that's a bit of a shame.
I don't think that's right because as Harold has said, FSD supervised doesn't require it, and FSD supervised comes with smart summon. But also the older cars have got smart summon. It's not AFF, it's not actual smart summon, but it is smart summon.
It is, yeah.
It works in Australia perfectly fine and has been working, for a long time. I wouldn't say it's perfect. It's nowhere near perfect. It's actually more of a
scary.
No, just more of a
party trick.
Party trick, exactly.
Which when you get all your best friends and you show them, that's the one time it doesn't work and it gets stuck.
Suffers from stage fright. So, but the actual smart summon is supposed to be pretty good. So I don't think that's right for those two reasons.
Well, there's a subtle difference here, Pete, because the actual smart summon, the car is essentially driving itself. It's almost unsupervised and it's very close to being unsupervised. Technically, you've got your phone or whatever your device is, but it's coming across a car park with nobody in it. And
But Smart Summon does that on existing cars. Has been
Yeah.
doing
Yeah, it only
Yeah,
does
it
it on
does.
a relatively small range, is my
up to
understanding.
about
Yeah.
60 meters. Yeah.
So you can
Yeah.
chuck a rock at it and hit it easily, right? Whereas
Yes.
the ones I've seen in the US, they're right across the other side of the car
True.
park, wandering through all the traffic. There's a bit of a difference there, I think, and that's the issue, I think.
Yeah, so that's the difference between actual Smart Summon and Smart Summon.
Yeah.
Smart Summon is available in Australia on every car. I'm not sure if it's available on the Highland, but it's definitely not available on the Juniper. But it is available on all the other Model 3s and Model Ys sold in Australia.
But
I
not
like
the
it.
hardware for cars. I think that's the
hardware
issue.
for.
Is that hardware for Tesla
Model-
has basically said you're going to have actually Smart Summon, but you can't have it in Australia, and they're obviously not prepared to nobble actually Smart Summon to be just Smart Summon. Just like the way, in my opinion, it'd be great if Tesla just introduced autopilot as a subset of FSD supervised.
Yeah.
Because as we know, standard autopilot in many situations is very difficult to use because of its idiosyncrasies with curved dotted lines, which again, granted, if you look at the small print of Tesla's terms and conditions of autopilot use, you're not supposed to use it through intersections, but of course we all do because it operates well enough under supervision. So again, it would be great if Tesla sort of customized it to say, well, we'll just have a restricted version of actually Smart Summon in version 4 cars rather than having to wait until FSD supervised comes out in Australia between tomorrow and the end of the year.
Yeah, I'd say it's all rather moot. It should be out in a few months, cross fingers.
Yeah, well, it should be. We've got video posted on X by Tesla showing it, doing a hook turn in Melbourne. So it's just a matter of time before they're happy enough to let us play with it. Or perhaps letting it play with us. Who knows? Alrighty, on that note, one last question or comment on this Robotaxi week? No, I think we're pretty good. Alrighty. Pete, how would you round out an awesome show like this as if I didn't already know?
As always, stay safe, stay sustainable, go to Robotaxi, and stay ahead of the curve.
And the best way to do that is buy a Tesla or rent a Robotaxi, join Tokwa, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy and abundance. Have a wonderful, week, everyone, until we see you next week on Tokwa's in-person Ask Us Anything at Coburn. And for everyone else, I look forward to seeing you on next fortnight's episode of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. Good night, everyone.
Bye.